Turn to can't even show up and buy ticket fingers Angel Reese going home to her alma mater, LSU, plays against the Brazilian national team in front of 6,370.
The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and Angel Reese walked onto the court expecting noise, chaos, validation. Instead, she was met with silence so loud it felt like an insult. Empty seats stared back at her. No roar, no buzz, no moment, just echoes. In that instant, everything she had said before suddenly came back to haunt her. The bold quotes, the unapologetic confidence, the promise that women's basketball wasn't being watched because of just one person, but because of her too. And now, with thousands of seats untouched and cameras catching every awkward pause, the internet smelled blood. Clips spread fast. Fans zoomed in on the stands. Commentators whispered. Screenshots flew across X and TikTok with captions that cut deep. This was supposed to be her moment. Comparisons exploded instantly, because somewhere else, Caitlin Clark was playing in front of a packed house. Tickets sold out, jerseys flying, noise shaking the arena. And suddenly, Angel Reese wasn't just playing a game. She was standing trial in the court of public opinion. Her body language tightened. Every miss felt heavier. Every glance at the crowd looked longer. Social media didn't wait for the final buzzer. The narrative was already forming, brutal and unforgiving. Was this bad scheduling, or a reality check? Was Angel Reese overrated, or just overwhelmed by a moment bigger than she expected? Because the silence in that arena wasn't just empty seats, it was the sound of a storm beginning. And Angel Reese was standing right in the middle of it. Long before the empty seats, long before the cameras zoomed in on awkward silences, Angel Reese built herself into a force, fueled by defiance. She wasn't raised to blend in, she was raised to take space. From the moment she exploded onto the national stage at LSU, Angel embraced confrontation as currency. The confidence, the swagger, the willingness to be hated if it meant being unforgettable. She didn't just play basketball, she performed it. Every stare, every gesture, every quote was a declaration that she belonged at the center of the conversation. Whether people liked it or not, and for a while, it worked. Angel Reese became a symbol. To some, she was empowerment and unapologetic dominance. To others, she was controversy wrapped in talent. Either way, attention followed her everywhere. Social media numbers climbed, brands called, cameras lingered. Angel learned quickly that noise could be controlled. That outrage could be redirected. That being the villain still meant being visible. She leaned into it, publicly embracing the bad guy role. Telling the world she was willing to carry the heat so others didn't have to. But confidence has a hidden cost. It raises expectations faster than reality can keep up. As the spotlight grew brighter, the comparisons became unavoidable. Caitlin Clark's rise wasn't just meteoric, it was seismic. Records shattered, arenas sold out, ratings exploded, and suddenly, Angel wasn't just Angel Reese anymore, she was Angel Reese in relation to Caitlin Clark. Every quote she gave, every claim about impact, every reminder that it's not just one person, was filtered through that rivalry. Whether she intended it or not, the pressure wasn't just external, it was psychological. Because when you tell the world you are the reason people are watching, the world eventually checks the receipts. Behind the bravado, those close to Angel noticed the strain, the constant need to defend her relevance, the irritation when her name trended for the wrong reasons, the subtle shift from joy to tension. Basketball stopped being just basketball, it became validation. Every game felt like a referendum on her identity, not just her skill. And when that happens, silence becomes terrifying. So when Angel stepped onto that court for her first professional appearance and saw rows of empty seats, it wasn't just disappointing, it was destabilizing. It contradicted the story she had been telling herself, the story she had told everyone else. Because Angel Reese didn't just believe she was important to women's basketball, she needed it to be true. Her brand, her confidence, her entire public persona depended on that belief holding up under bright lights. The emotional conflict wasn't about jealousy, it was about fear. Fear that the narrative was shifting without her permission. Fear that effort and personality weren't translating into the kind of gravity that fills arenas. Fear that being loud wasn't enough anymore. And when fear mixes with pride, it doesn't retreat quietly, it fights back, and that fight was just getting started. The silence didn't end when the game tipped off. It followed Angel Reese down the floor, clung to every possession, and tightened around her with each missed opportunity. Every rebound felt like survival. Every shot felt like a test she didn't ask for but couldn't escape. The cameras didn't blink. Social media didn't wait. By the end of the first quarter, clips of the empty stands were already looping online. Slowed down, zoomed in, mocked, weaponized. And that's when the real conflict ignited. Because Angel didn't just notice the crowd, she reacted to it. Her body language shifted, the confidence hardened into tension. Teammates felt it, coaches saw it. On the bench, whispers started. Was she pressing? Was she forcing it? Was she trying to prove something that didn't need proving? Every possession became louder than the last. Not because of the arena, but because of the pressure screaming inside her head. Then came the quote. After the game, instead of brushing it off, Angel leaned into the fire. She reminded everyone, again, that women's basketball wasn't being watched because of just one person. That she mattered. That her impact couldn't be erased by one night, one crowd, one comparison. But the internet didn't hear confidence, it heard defensive-ness. And in today's WNBA media cycle, tone matters more than intent. Within minutes, the backlash detonated. Fans flooded timelines with side-by-side images. Angel's empty arena, Caitlin Clark's sold-out one. Commentators didn't even need to say her name, the contrast did all the talking. Influencers framed it as a reality check. Analysts framed it as market truth. And trolls framed it as something crueler, louder, and far more viral. The narrative hardened fast. Angel Reese talks like a superstar, but draws like a role player. That's when the first shocking twist hit. Instead of retreating, Angel doubled down. She liked posts defending her. She ignored the ones criticizing her. She stayed silent just long enough to let speculation explode, then let her presence speak louder than words. But behind the scenes, tension spiked. Sources close to the team whispered that coaches were worried, not about her talent, but about the weight she was carrying into every possession. Because when a player starts playing for the narrative instead of the scoreboard, everything changes. Locker room conversations got quieter. Teammates stopped joking. Every drill felt sharper, heavier. Angel wasn't just fighting opponents anymore. She was fighting perception. And perception doesn't miss shots. It doesn't get tired. It waits. Then the moment happened. Mid-game, after a tough call didn't go her way, Angel reacted, not violently, not recklessly, but visibly. Hands up. Words exchanged. Cameras caught it instantly. Commentators paused. Social media froze the frame. There it is, people said. That's the pressure cracking. What should have been a routine moment became a symbol. Another clip added to a growing montage questioning her composure, her leadership, her readiness for this level. And just like that, the conversation shifted again. It wasn't about empty seats anymore. It was about control, about whether Angel Reese could carry the weight she demanded, about whether confidence without universal validation could survive the professional grind. Former players weighed in carefully. Some defended her fire. Others warned that the league doesn't reward declarations, it rewards consistency. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Caitlin Clark didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her performances spoke. Her crowds responded, and the silence from her side only made Angel's situation louder. Rivalry narratives reignited overnight, not because either player wanted it, but because the league thrives on contrast. And Angel Reese had just become the contrast point by the time the final buzzer sounded. The game felt secondary. Headlines were already written. Debates were already locked in. And Angel Reese walked off the court knowing something had changed, not just how people saw her, but how hard it would be to control that image moving forward. Because the moment you claim the spotlight, you don't get to decide how it shines. The days after that game didn't cool anything down. They poured gasoline on it. Every sports show replayed the same clips. Every podcast argued the same point from different angles. Angel Reese didn't even need to speak anymore. The narrative was speaking for her, about her, and over her. And the worst part, it was starting to follow her everywhere. Practice footage leaked. Not anything scandalous on its own, just short clips, grainy angles, nothing dramatic. But the tone people attached to them changed everything. A missed layup became proof. A frustrated look became confirmation. A moment of intensity turned into meltdown. Every movement was now evidence in a trial Angel didn't know she was on trial for. Inside the building, the tension thickened. Coaches started pulling her aside more often, not to scold, to steady. Teammates tried to keep things light, but conversations stopped the moment cameras appeared. Nobody wanted to say the wrong thing. Nobody wanted to be clipped, quoted, or turned into the next subplot. The locker room wasn't divided, but it wasn't relaxed either. Angel could feel it. The distance, the hesitation, the weight of being the headline instead of just a teammate. Then came the numbers, attendance. Comparisons began circulating like receipts, charts, screenshots, graphics breaking down ticket sales, viewership spikes, merchandise trends. Caitlin Clark's impact was being framed as undeniable, measurable, overwhelming. And without saying Angel's name directly, analysts made it clear who the comparison was aimed at. This is what a needle mover looks like. This is what demand sounds like. Each statement landed like a quiet punch. Angel saw it all. And instead of shrinking, something in her snapped into defiance. She showed up louder, played harder, crashed boards with more aggression, fought for position like every possession was personal. The fire that once energized her now burned sharper, more desperate. You could see it in her eyes. She wasn't just playing the opponent anymore. She was playing the conversation. That's when the second major twist hit. Midway through another nationally discussed game, after a physical sequence under the basket, Angel picked up a foul she didn't agree with. She turned toward the bench, frustration spilling over. Words were exchanged, not screamed, but visible, clear enough for cameras, clear enough for lip readers on social media to start guessing. The broadcast caught it, the replay slowed it down, commentators went quiet, then careful. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Yelling at her coach. Out of control. Can't handle pressure. The same moment was interpreted 100 different ways, but only one version traveled fastest. And just like that, the narrative escalated from comparison to character. It wasn't about basketball anymore, it was about temperament, leadership, professionalism, weather. Angel Reese was becoming her own worst enemy. Under the weight of expectations she helped create. What people didn't see was what happened immediately after. On the bench, Angel sat back down, jaw clenched, eyes locked forward. No theatrics, no meltdown, but the damage was already done. The clip had escaped the context. It had escaped the truth. And once that happens, control is gone. Former players started chiming in. Some defended her passion, saying the league needs emotion, edge, personality. Others warned that the pros are unforgiving, that confidence without restraint can quickly be reframed as arrogance, that the line between fire and friction is thin, and once crossed, it's hard to uncross. Meanwhile, the league office stayed silent. No statements, no corrections, no clarifications. Silence can feel neutral until you realize it lets the loudest voices win. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. About branding meetings, about PR conversations, about whether Angel should speak or stay quiet, about whether doubling down would help or bury her deeper. Every option carried risk. Every move felt like it could tilt her season one way or the other. And the cruelest part, Caitlin Clark kept playing, kept selling out arenas, kept letting the noise stay behind her. The contrast widened with every game. By now, Angel Reese wasn't just facing criticism, she was facing a crossroads. Keep embracing the villain role she once claimed proudly, or recalibrate before the league locks her into a box. She can't escape, because the firestorm had moved past debate. It was becoming judgment. And the next reaction from Angel, from the team, from the league, wouldn't just shape headlines. It would decide what comes next. The fallout hit harder than the criticism ever could. Because this time it wasn't just noise from strangers online. It was everywhere. Morning shows, sports radio, comment sections that moved faster than facts. Angel Reese woke up to a version of herself she didn't fully recognize. Clipped, framed, simplified into a character the internet had already decided how to feel about. Fans split instantly. One side rallied behind her with raw emotion, calling the backlash unfair, misogynistic, and exhausting. They pointed to her impact, her visibility, her role in making women's basketball louder than it had ever been. They flooded timelines with support, reminders of her college dominance, her rebounding numbers, her fire. To them, Angel wasn't the problem, the culture was. The other side was louder. They treated the empty stands like a verdict, like proof, like a scoreboard that didn't lie. They replayed every missed layup, every frustrated reaction, every quote taken slightly out of context and turned into a headline, not a draw. All talk, built on drama. The language got harsher by the hour, and once that tone set in, it spread fast. Even neutral analysts started choosing sides. Some tried to soften it, saying Angel was young, still adjusting, still learning the pro game. Others were blunt, arguing that confidence at this level demands production, and that the league doesn't wait for anyone to figure it out. Every take felt like a pylon, even when it wasn't meant to be. And through it all, Angel stayed mostly quiet, which only made people project more onto her silence. Inside the arena, the atmosphere changed too. Crowds watched her differently. Louder reactions to mistakes. Sharper murmurs. Phones out, ready to capture something, anything that could become the next viral moment. Teammates felt it. Coaches felt it. The pressure wasn't just on Angel anymore. It seeped into the entire team dynamic. Every game felt like a referendum. Not just on her play, but on her presence. Sponsors noticed. Media partners noticed. The league noticed even if they didn't say it out loud. Social media turned ruthless. Memes replaced nuance. Side-by-side comparisons with Caitlin Clark flooded feeds again. This time framed as inevitability rather than debate. Caitlin's packed arenas. Angel's quieter ones. Caitlin's calm interviews. Angel's visible frustration. It became a story people felt comfortable reducing to winners and losers. Even though real life rarely works that cleanly, and Angel felt it. Life rarely works that cleanly, and Angel felt it. Post-game interviews grew shorter. Her answers more careful. The swagger that once came naturally now carried a defensive edge, like armor she didn't want to need but couldn't take off. Every question felt loaded. Every pause felt analyzed. When she spoke about being a bad guy before, it was with pride. Now, the role felt heavier, less performative, more isolating. Former players reached out privately. Some offered encouragement, others offered warnings. They'd seen this cycle before. How quickly a player can go from celebrated to scrutinized. How hard it is to claw back narrative control once the public decides who you are. They told her to breathe, to play, to remember why she loved the game before the cameras multiplied. But love doesn't cancel pressure. The hardest part wasn't the hate. It was the doubt creeping in quietly, asking questions she couldn't mute. Was she doing too much? Saying too much? Carrying expectations that weren't hers alone? Could she win the crowd back by just playing? Or had the conversation already moved beyond basketball? Because now, every Angel Reese game felt like a test she didn't sign up for. And the league kept moving. New stars rising, new storylines forming, attention shifting fast. The public doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. It crowns quickly. It turns quicker. Angel Reese stood at the center of it all, supported, criticized, dissected, realizing that the fallout wasn't fading, it was settling. And the most dangerous part, once the noise becomes normal, people stop listening for the truth. Just when it felt like the narrative had hardened beyond repair, something unexpected began to surface, not on the court, not in the stands, but behind the scenes where cameras don't usually go. While the public debated ticket sales and temper, those closest to Angel Reese noticed a shift. Not louder, not flashier, quieter, more deliberate, almost calculated. Angel stopped reacting. No cryptic likes. No fuel for the outrage machine. Practices became closed door. Media access tightened. And for the first time since the storm began, the conversation paused, not because people moved on, but because they didn't know what she would do next. Then whispers started. League insiders hinted that internal conversations were happening about image, about expectations, about whether Angel had been asked to carry a narrative that was never hers alone, about whether the league itself had leaned too hard into rivalry marketing, pitting personalities against each other until one cracked under the weight. The same voices that once amplified the contrast now seemed uneasy with how far it had gone. And then came the moment no one saw coming. During a game that wasn't supposed to matter, low hype, minimal build-up, Angel played differently. Fewer gestures, fewer reactions, no declarations, just work, positioning, timing, effort without announcement. She didn't dominate the highlight reels. She didn't chase the camera, but she controlled space, possessions, tempo, the kind of performance that doesn't scream, but settles arguments slowly. Commentators noticed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to plant doubt in the certainty people had grown comfortable with. This is growth. This looks different. This feels intentional. The same analysts who once questioned her composure now questioned their own, rushed to define her. Social media hesitated. The memes slowed. The hot takes stalled. It's hard to mock silence when it's paired with purpose. Hard to reduce someone to a caricature when they stop feeding it. And that's when the final twist revealed itself. The backlash hadn't just exposed Angel Reese, it had exposed the system around her. How quickly narratives are built, how eagerly they're consumed, how little patience exists for players who don't fit a clean, comfortable mold. Angel's confidence had been treated like provocation, her frustration treated like failure, and only now were people starting to ask whether the expectations placed on her were ever fair to begin with. But the cliffhanger isn't redemption, not yet. Because even as the tone shifted slightly, the stakes remained brutal. One good stretch doesn't erase months of scrutiny. One quiet response doesn't undo viral perception, and the league doesn't slow down to let anyone recalibrate. The next games will matter more than the last. The next interviews will be dissected more than the previous ones. And the comparisons, they haven't gone away. They're just waiting. Angel Reese now stands in the most dangerous place in professional sports. Not doubted, not dismissed, but watched. Every move from here on out will be read as confirmation or collapse. A breakout will be framed as finally. A stumble will be framed as told you so. There is no neutral ground anymore, only momentum, forward or backward. And the biggest unanswered question isn't whether Angel Reese can play, it's whether she can redefine herself without asking permission, because if she succeeds, she won't just change her own story, she forced the league to confront how quickly it crowns and how eagerly it tears down. But if she falters, the silence that once shocked everyone might return, and this time, it won't be empty seats making the noise. It'll be the sound of a narrative closing in. This story isn't just about one game, one crowd, or one moment that went viral. It's about how fast we build heroes, how even faster we tear them down, and how uncomfortable we get when an athlete refuses to fit neatly into the box we prepared for them. Angel Reese is standing at the center of that storm right now. And what happens next won't just define her career, it will expose what kind of league, what kind of media, and what kind of fans we really are. So now it's on you. Do we keep rewarding narratives over nuance? Do we keep confusing confidence with arrogance and silence with weakness? Or do we finally admit that women's basketball is big enough for more than one story, more than one star, more than one way to lead? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. Not the recycled takes, not the easy jokes, the real ones. Is Angel Reese being unfairly judged? Or is this the price of calling yourself great? Can the league grow without constantly pitting players against each other? And what responsibility do fans have when criticism turns into obsession? If you want unfiltered breakdowns, real context, and stories the headlines won't slow down long enough to tell, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because this season is far from over. And neither is this conversation.